Okay, guys, welcome back. The reason why this is going to be a quick part three. Again, my name is Sal Cosentino. I'm a cloud architect and a business owner, a cloud architect, mentor and trainer. I've been training and mentoring for many, many years. Teach at different faculties and different schools part time, and I also have my own YouTube channel and I've got an extensive background, about 18 years experience. It actually started way before that as a hobby, um, back in the 90s, the late 90s, where we were learning when we still had our Pentium systems and we're downloading files and pictures and things on a floppy drive. So, things were different. We had Windows, so we were things were progressing, right? So IT's always been my passion. Always been something that I've been passionate about. And to me you know it's my passion, um what I love doing, and I love sharing it with you guys, right? Also as an owner, I have to be an engineer. I don't have a team with me. I don't have a team of engineers with me. Usually when I do work with people, I work with engineers, developers, security engineers, and writers and whatnot. So I have a lot of backup, a lot of and IT, service desk and infrastructure teams. So I deal with a lot of project managers. I deal with a lot of SMEs. So I've got a file background in this kind of stuff. Now, I love designing. I love building my own systems. I love designing my own infrastructure. I love designing my own networks. I love designing my own computer systems. Putting in what I have to put in to make it work. I'm also not just the physicality of it, the physical servers, but also the cloud servers, right? So being able to migrate, or lift and shift, migrate from an on-premises to a cloud service, and also being able to work on premises in my own environment, within my branch, within my location, within my building, et cetera, right? So in different hybrid, even multi-cloud environments, different hybrid environments, where even the data centers are cloud based, and our cloud is cloud, right? So we've got cloud to cloud, where on premises is cloud, and our second and third cloud are act as our cloud based system, right? So as a backup. So there's a lot of things that I've done, right? And when it comes down to this kind of stuff, it's not just showing you my system, but it's showing you what I know, what I learned. It's my passion, right? There is a business involved inside of this. This is not something that, you know, um, I've when I align and design, and where there were different types of organizations worked, right? It's different components, where I create my strategy for that client, and you guys watching, so that you guys can enhance your business performance, not only the tech, but being able to understand the business and the business goals, and devise a strategy behind it, right? Cost, how much you're going to save, understanding what our goal is here, in terms of a business. This is sort of having, not really having, starting your business, but it's sort of, you know, basically you're becoming independent. I'm showing you how one um can change, and how changes another, uh changes another, right? And then what the optim and what the long time growth is, in terms of how your learning experience, in terms of how you get there, in terms of how you approach different, see executive levels and CEOs, and different architects, within a big business, right? So, you know, being able to, you know, share your strengths and weakness of every solution, what we come up with, it allows you to, um, you know, give you the process and the technology that you choose, right? So you get to choose your own technology and you get to choose the own processes that you use. So, I my goal here is to make you become, if you are in the startup, and you want to become an IT expert, and you want to become a cloud expert, or you want to become an on-premises expert, or you want to become a systems admin. This is where, you know, you want to learn first. You don't want to just become, um, you need to know the tech first, right? It's good. Like my goal is not just to, I'm trying to get you to follow your dream, right? So, if you're trying to learn a product for a project, then this is the way to go. Everything I do is unedited, unscripted. I leave this open for the world. So I deal with, like, these videos are open globally, to hundreds and thousands of people and millions, right? I leave them online. I leave them on demand. They're free. I get a lot of people who message me personally, asking for help. I get messages left, right, and center saying, "Hey, do you follow this? Do you do this? Do you do that?" Right? So, um, you gotta know what your clients want. You gotta know what your clients need. These are questions you're gonna ask. Why would you care about doing this, right? There's a reason why you would want to know how to do this. Confidence means everything, right? So, knowing that even if you have a lack of confidence, you can build that confidence easily. Record yourself to yourself. Grab your phone, record yourself, say something, you know, repeat it and watch it over and over again, and then get feedback. Feedback is important too. So, get yourself ready for that. Um, in this video here, sometimes again, this is unedited, it's scripted. These are certain errors that you get. I had a VM that I had from 4 years ago with one of my student classes that I taught in 4 years ago, and this one was, VC VCP 7 ESXi 7 version. Um, and I wanted to kind of show you the difference between 7 and 8, because some companies are still on 7, some companies are on 8, some companies are migrating from 6.5 to 7, or 7. They're getting close, right? So, a lot of companies will have these environments. There's not much of a difference, but I thought maybe let me get you a project that I worked on. I taught students how to build it from scratch, right? A lot of and now we have cloud versions of this stuff where you don't have to, we can still create these machines in the cloud, right? So these machines are created in the cloud. um you know I want to be able to build there's a lot of things that I want to address, that the hiring managers might want to ask you, and these are questions that, based on what you put on your resume, right? So, if you want to learn this, I recommend you take the exam right away. Get your exam out there. It doesn't mean that you're going to get yourself in the door, but this will give you more of the visual hands-on, and you being able to not afford the hardware. Again, the hardware is expensive. And I know in my last video, you know, you servers are expensive, right? If you can go online and buy some cheap servers out there, you can get a 128 to 56 uh, GB server, with 16 cores and et cetera, and still spend a lot of money, right? If you do your research and you do um, your benchmarks, right? You can benchmarks for servers, for SAN environment, right? Um, so there are different benchmark tools, you know, that I recommend, not the CSI ones, but benchmarks, some good sites that are good here. Let's see, benchmarks for, let's say, HP servers. Let's see, just give an example, and hopefully we can get the benchmarks here. It's been a while since I looked at some benchmarking software. Let's see what's good out there. Best benchmark software. Again, this is all don't remember this. I don't. This is unscripted. So be, benchmark site for HP server. So there's one CPU benchmarks. This is one that I typically use, right? So you're looking at the different types of benchmarks, right? You have your benchmark by CPU thread, CPU charts, desktop servers, systems with multiple CPUs. Again, you're going to look at your and do your comparisons between that. And again, you can look at different CPUs, right? So you'll have different CPU models that you can look at. And in this example, I don't know, we'll look for Intel, let's say, right? And again, and then once you have that, you can kind of look online and shop around. But again, when you're looking at these different benchmarks, this will give you the scores based on what you're looking for and what you're basically wanting. And this is where you can kind of build your um, so so let's say like that, right? So we'll find a CPU that has that. And again, these have different price ranges as well too sometimes. So this will also give you a price range. So this is updated. It's got a 341. Higher is better, obviously. Um, doesn't give you much information on this one, but I am assuming it's called multi-thread, single thread. Oh, Intel. So this will give you some definite answers, right? Price ranging, right? So let's say, for example, you filter the price range here, price performance. There you go. So, and then we can kind of take a look at that. And you have the price and mark value. Um, and then this is your, uh, there you go. So, it'll give you your ratings and your single rating scores. So this will have all your cache, um, your different cores, right? So you have the different cores, your performance cores, plus your efficient cores, your virtual cores, and then that'll give you the total. And you have your threads, then you have your gigahertz based, and what other stuff you guys have. So this will give you different rankings. Do your research. Don't just go with what I say. I'm just giving you an example, right? There's many out there. It all depends on what you're looking for. As architects, me myself, I would call the vendor and talk to the vendor and see if I can get a resolution based on that and get a price list on that. Talk to the team and get the right team members to help me out with that without that decision, right? When you're doing that, there are cheap servers as well too. You're going out there, you're buying servers, used servers, right? There are some secondhand servers anywhere that you want to buy, right? And they have these different types of servers, and these are the different prices that are. Um, right? So let's look at rack servers or tower servers, for example. So let's do a Dell 12 gen, which is the lowest one that they have, right? And this is just the server itself for $195. Let me read that. What's this? So right now they have, this is just the bay itself that's in stock, basic bay, right? And you would basically select your own. Um, all right, and then you can add your RAM, 56. Just an example, yeah, 384. Hard drive caddies, how many do I want? Right now I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16. right? So we can do as many drives as we want. So two caddies, $30, 290s enterprise SATA drives, 2 terabyte drives, right? So the more you add, the more it's gonna cost, right? Um, so yeah, it is very expensive, but you know, typically go with four for now. As you can see, it gets high, right? The prices do get high as you go with mix and match, and then you'll have your gigabit Ethernet, or you can have 2 gigabit Ethernets and an SPF port, or two 10 gig and 1 gig. It all depends on what you want, right? Your infrastructure and what you're planning on using it for, right? So, you can always get one. You should be able to get two 25 GB. Um, you know, you're gonna do 2 and 4, which is normal concept, and you're gonna go with the Herc that has 1 gig cache, and that'll give you all your raids. Perfect. So you're gonna choose that, and then you're gonna have competition Julie. Well, this is where you're gonna have to, get your GPU cards, and again, the lower you go, the more it costs, right? Um, so do some research on that. Get um, your benchmarks in and build your PCs. As an example, this is just a site, and then add it to your cart. If you want to add, for example, single, SPF module for fiber, you can add that there. You can add your warranty, buy your warranty, and then add your network cards. Uh, sliding rack details if you need a faceplate. Obviously, you're going to want a faceplate. They make you pay for that. And if you want iDRAC for remote, right? So you can use that for remoting, and then add that to your cart, right? So based on what I just designed, right now I'm looking at 2,100 with tax, estimated in Canada, right? So based on that, or that's one option. Or if you want, a lot of times what you'll do is you'll get a tower. You can get a tower already preset, right? You don't have to spend that much. Uh, and get something like this, which is awesome, 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 right? Does its work. Um, let's see. This has, let's see, let's do 16 cores for now, which is okay for now. There's nothing much. You got 2 cores per slot. We're talked about that, and I just want to mention, the different enterprise solutions that you want here. So in this instance, you're gonna have 8 times caddy, right? Hard drives, right? So you're gonna do 4 8, uh, 4 by 8 terabyte, or whatever you want to use is what you're gonna use, right? So you have SAS drives, then you have your SATA drives, which cost a little bit more. So in this instance, you can do SATA, you can do SAS drives, or you could that's it, a SAS drive, or you could do a SATA port uh, in terabytes, right? So you can have 32 terabytes here for $480, right? Or you can do 216, which is $300 on top of that. So in this instance, you're gonna go with the up to date. Um, what I would do is I would do 4 terabyte drives, right? Which is 32, gives you a little bit more. But yeah, 32 for $480, just for an extra $130 more, right? Or you could do 8 times 4, which is 32 SAS drives, which is a new option, um, for double that price. But just select anything for now. It doesn't matter. I'm just giving you a nod. I'm not designing this PC for you. It all depends on your budget. So, and this one again, I would want 256. You could do 64 as a minimum, right? And you can work your way up 126. All depends on your budget, right? So play around with this, see what you can do. Obviously, with terabytes, with if you want this to be a powerful machine, as your first time, I would go with the highest, which is 256. I think that's more than enough, right? You don't need terabytes. In here, you can build, you can build 8 gig machines here, 16 gig machines here, and divide these into like multiple machines, right? So if you grab a calculator, right, and you have 250 calculator, right? So if I'm taking this 256, um, 256, and let's say we have 8 gig machines, we can build 32 of those 8 gig machines, right? And if we get 256, right, 32 via virtual machines in this server, um, right, and divide that into 8 days, right? So you can build 32 of those fully, right? But you're not going to be using 256, but you can have a total of 32 running at the same time, um, which is kind of cool. Or you can have a 16, you can have a 256, divide that by, let's say, 16 GB laptop, right? You can have 16 machines running at the same time. Right, and on, always on. So the more you add, the higher intensive, um the more information comes in, the more people hit the machine, the more memory and RAM you're gonna have, right? So yeah, so again, you get your ports. It all depends on what you want it for. In this case, it doesn't matter what you need it for, right? But I would typically do a two, you know, 410, two dual port 10 Ethernet, and then 4 times for RJ35. You could do 2 port Giga Ethernet cards. Um, you know, right? Doesn't matter. Always go with the extended warranty. You never know, right? Let me buy one. So something like this would run me, just for a desktop, it would run me almost $2,000, um, which is a little bit more than what we budgeted. So you're looking at the rack servers. The rack server looks a little bit better, and that's just for a 13, right? And the more generations you use, the more the more these machines cost, right? So then there's people that just use laptops, right? So like I said before in my last session, right? You have your laptop. You can have a 12 GB RAM or more, right? You have 500 GB, and then what you can do is you can physically, within this machine, you can install your hypervisor software, which is your Workstation Pro. And I think I got the wrong picture. Sorry. Uh, yeah, so that was a wrong picture. Apologize. That's your Workstation Pro, and then within your Workstation Pro, um, this is where your environment is, right? So this is going to be your on premises. And in your laptops, again, you can do whatever you want. It's a little bit thicker. That's what. All right. So in your Workstation Pros, you're going to build your infrastructure, right? And remember, the more you have, the better it is. I've explained the requirements in detail in my documentation. Just click on the link and go through the information. Or again, you can um, go into our documentation here, right, our link. So this link right here, and follow along, right? So you're clicking on that. So this will have all the information that you need in terms of how to download, um, right, and then additional resources that you need. Then you have your introduction to your system, right? your host requirements for Workstation Pro, your processor requirements. So this is what we would look into when we're building, right? And this is what it supports. So yeah, you can work with that. Just make sure you have that and it's supported. If you have an Intel CPU that has VTX support, you must verify the support is enabled in the host BIOS, right? So that's important, and there's a knowledge base there to uh, to get you through that process, right? I've given you a lot of notes. I've given you a lot of documentation, but again, here's the um, all the information. You'd have to go through this and ensure that your processor uh, enabled on your VMware host and you have your VT, and that's also enabled. I have other videos explaining what VT is for virtualization technology on your VM, and you'll see that in here. I'll go to my settings and I go to processor, and you'll see the VTX, right? VPT, what that means, and then what that does and how that does that. And again, obviously I would need to click on that because it's a hypervisor. So just make sure when I power this off, make sure that's clicked. I think I forgot. Especially if I'm running a server with Hyper-V on it. I would need that checked. Yeah, see, I'm missing that one. Okay, so I think this one too has it. Doesn't have it. Huge processor. Yeah, that's click. So this is the only one that's clicking. That's unclickable. So before I get to um before I get to the issue, uh we had a problem yesterday where we had an operation file that was located on that failed. If that resides on the file system, we make sure that there was a network connection, the server resides, and was the disk resides or functioning properly. The reason why I was getting that error is because I did some research and I was like, okay, I don't have that much left on my A drive. And there you have it, right? So that was one of my problems. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open this up and I'm gonna run it on my um on another drive that I have settled here. And within here, I'm going to um put it into my folder here, and I'm gonna move the folder to here so that it sits there, and that's where that machine is going to sit. Now, I have to power off this machine before I do that. So this is how I would normally fix it. It seems like it's a lot of work. Obviously, in a real environment, um, you know, you're going to save your disks in your data store, right? Um, it's going to be saved in your data store. It's going to be saved on your VMFS volumes within your data store, right? So make sure that you have uh enough on there. There is a uh video that I don't have the video, but there is some documentation on how to log in with putty and extend the disk drive space on here, but I'm not going to show you that. That's an advanced topic. I just want to make sure when you're building it, you're putting in a terabyte and you have space available for you, right? So when you get your SAN drive, you have that 2 or 3 or 4 terabytes. Especially when you're building these machines, they get big and big, right? So the more VMs you put on there, the more um, the more space you're gonna have, right? So I did calculate it here. I did calculate the RAM for you, but you can also calculate the um, the number of terabytes, right? So if you're looking for when you're building a machine, for example, so if I were to build it, let's say I wanted to build a new machine as an example, right? And it doesn't matter, I'll install it after. I'm gonna ESXi, right? 7, I'm gonna click next. It doesn't matter where I put it. This is just going to be temporary, right? I'm not going to finish it. So I could put up, I can put a terabyte of hard drive space. I usually put 300 because this is just a test environment. I usually install some VMs without OS systems. A lot of my classes, I put a little bit more, but it depends on the project and what I'm doing and how I'm expanding. But like if I were to architect my own, I would obviously have more, right? So just remember, you know, 1 terabyte, 1 gigabyte is equal to 124 megabytes, right? So if I am looking for a terabyte, let's say, for example, I need a terabyte, right? So 1 terabyte equals one gigabyte equals 1024. So if I have 100 gigabytes or 1,000 gigabytes, sorry, 1,000 gigabytes is a terabyte. So if I'm looking for 1,000, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 1024, right? And I'm going to multiply that by 1,000, right? So that's what I want, 1,000 gigs. So 1,000 gigs is a terabyte. And what I'm going to do is put that in number in my section, right? So what I want is I want to put this 24 times 100 GB times 10. So I'm going to get this number and I'm going to put, now this maximum disk, I think it only allows you to put 64. I may be mistaken. I would have to look into the documentation. But again, I would put a terabyte just because I want to do that, right? So in this instance, I can put, I don't know, 1024 GB, right? So that's a terabyte right there. So the maximum disk is not in MB, it's in GB. So it would be sorry, GB to MB, right? So GB to MB. So 1024 GB would be the number that I'm wanting to put, or in GB, sorry. So this is going to be in GB. And right there, that's a terabyte. It doesn't matter if my recommended size is 142. I'm just going to click next. And in this instance, I'm going to use a split for troubleshooting purposes. So as you can see, it's terabyte split with 4 gigs of memory. What did we say we were going to use for requirements? Did we give our requirements? We'll open up my page here. Requires a minimum of 8 of physical RAM, or at least 12 to GB of to run virtual machines in a production environment. So in this instance, we'll give it 12 GB, right? Instead of 4. Um, Remember, the more this will run, let's say it'll run, you know, an X amount of servers within here, right? So if I want to run, that's just for one machine to run, like an 8 GB machine to run perfectly fine. If I want to run, 3 or 4 or 5, I would obviously add more into my main server, right? So I would give it, I don't know, here, let's customize that. I would give it 32 or 24, right? Let's say 32 and 32 GB. All I gotta do is click on the marker. It's recommended is 4, but the minimum is 12, right? So we'll do 32 in this environment. Just remember, it's a test environment. I don't know what you're using it for. You should be able to change the amount of memory in a server. You just need to, it's not hot swappable, or it could be hot swappable, but I recommend sharing out the server and then adding in the recommended amount of MB for this thing. I also want to ensure that our network adapters are adding it. So what we'll do is we'll add another network adapter. Okay, and we'll just leave it on that for now. And if eventually we can change that to custom later, right? And we can just give it NAT which is virtual net, and then I'll hit close, and then my first adapter will have the same thing, VMnet 8, which is gives me internet for no particular reason, and I have the two CPU cores. Now, in terms of cores, we stated for cores in any environment, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see what I said here for cores. Let's see what I said here for cores. So in an ESXi for management, we need at least one physical NIC. So what we'll do is we will give it, because this is more for storage, consider this dedicated NIC for storage traffic. So we'll give 1, 2, and this is just for 200, right? So start with at least 2 or 4 physical NICs to handle it. So what I'll do is I'll put 4 physical NICs, and I think I already have that, but I'll add an extra 2 more for those specific reasons, right? And I'll add another one. 4, and that's based on the drawing that I gave you guys before. So if we were to go to give it one more network adapter, okay, and these are all going to be custom. This can be changed based on your virtual environment and how you want to do it. You can add 3D graphics if you want, specify the amount of monitors you want to use. So in this environment, I want to make sure that I click on the VT, like I said. And for processors, I am going to say this has got 2 CPU. And did I give you guys a processor here? Did I say anything? So we'll need at least 32 GB, 1 or more gigabit or Ethernet controllers is what we did. And then enable that, which is what we did. And at least 12 and an 8 physical RAM and at least 12 to run virtual machines, right? So our machine has tons. I think I have 128, 256. So I have enough here to run whatever I want. It doesn't matter. Again, in a server environment, in an ESXi environment, we also want to add the cores, the amount of cores that I put in here. So for cores, I said, what did I say for cores? So for ESXi, it's based on the physical cores on your host with the physical cores per CPU. So if I'm starting, it would be 2 CPUs with 8 to 16 each. So I would have a total of 32 or 64 cores on my main server, right? But because this, and then again, I would leave 4 physical NICs, and I would have to use for performance. I would need to aim 2 CPUs with 16 cores. So just make sure I have 16 cores in my machine. I would give myself again 4 for this machine, right? Let's just say example, right? But no, I'm not gonna do that. I just need 1 core. That'll work fine for now. In processors, these types of servers, you need more processor speed than you would give yourself. The amount of processor is fine as is. I will just leave it as is. If this was a laptop or a PC with Windows 10, I would reverse the roles, right? So that way I have 2 cores and I can, play with that, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to leave this as is. There is software where I'm gonna need the cores there, the threading, the power for that, but in this instance, I should be okay with just one, from whatever I have in my system. And I think, oh, think I have enough. Should be okay. Yeah, 4 cores, 18 logical processors. Yeah, I should be okay to run my servers here. So I'm good to go. I'm going to leave everything as is. I also want to uh, put in a hard disk. For example, let's put in a hard disk. If I have, did I have? Okay, let's put a hard disk in. I would want cancel and then hit close. Um, it didn't add the hardware yet because I didn't finish creating it. Once I create it, I would move that. So same concept, right? So when I'm building this, I would save it in a location um, where it makes sense. And I'm not going to put it in my hard drive. I'm just going to put it somewhere else for now and use that up for whatever I want. Everybody's different, right? So if you have a USB, like I said, you would take your USB and you would connect it to this machine, and then you would save this USB stuff here, right? So this is my SAN network, but in your instance, you would have 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes, four, as many as you want, right? Just make sure you have the minimum at least. If you do have the minimum, then two approach machine, the more the merrier, right? Um, there are people that I've seen with 16 GB laptops or 12 GB laptops where you have a 2 GB domain controller, right? And then you'd have this machine off, right? You would install the software. So you would give this 4 GB, right? You would install the software, get all the services done, get everything ready, power off the machine, and then decrease it to 2 GB, and it would work perfectly fine, right? And then you would get your ESXi machine, and you would give it, 8 GB, for example, right? 8 GB for a test environment, doesn't matter what you were doing, right? You would give yourself an 8 GB, right? But I recommend at least 12, right? For your VIP machine, right? So you would need at least 12 for vSphere, right? But in this instance, for your ESXi, it's fine. 8 to 12 is fine. It's not a big deal. If you had more, please feel free to add more. Just make sure that these two machines are running, right? Remember, if you have a 12 GB machine, it doesn't necessarily mean you're using your full uh, 12 GB. Just ensure that you have the spaces available, right? I have enough space, like I said before, so I am going to reap the habits and reap the uses of having all 4 machines open for vSAN and for the different features and availabilities, um, opportunities that uh, ESXi gives us. Right. So when we're looking at the different opportunities that ESXi gives us, so I'm going to close this, cancel. I'm not going to save it. ESXi gives us tons of features, right? Different features here. So these are the different features that it has. So this will have up to 8 virtual vCPUs for fault tolerance. So you can use up to that. Doesn't mean that you're going to use this for day to day, right? So this is just for training, getting yourself prepared. At least that way you have a machine and you can play around with the different features that it has, especially when you're migrating these machines, right? So you have your different features for these specific machines, right? Please feel free to different permissions. You have your host permissions here, right? And then within our vSphere environment, we can use our different migrations, different topic. But let's just leave that as is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign out of this machine, log out. I'm going to leave these 2 machines here because I'm not touching them. I think it was this machine that gave me the error. Um, anyways, let's just work on this one for now. I want to install that machine. Um, and try to see if that resolved that error that I showed you there. Because typically when I see that error is it's the drive that's creating the problem, right? So what I'll do is I'll go to this I'll go to this drive here and I'll install it in here, right? So let's just open this up. We'll open this up. We'll open this up. We'll open this up, and I will look at the file name that I have. And if I look at the file name that I have, based out of my location here, okay, and oh, this is two. Settings. So no, this one here was based on the error. Sorry, my apologies. So based on the error, this one is ESXi1. So this is your ESXi1, ESXi1, ESXi1. So we are on ESXi1. I'm going to power off, power off. And as you could see, the configuration file is here. It's in that drive, right? And what I'll do is I will delete the LCK files. Because typically that helps. And that's the file that has an issue. So I'm going to delete this. Um, what I'm going to do is take all of this, copy, and I'm going to cut this, right? I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to go to here, and I'm just going to paste it here for now. So this is going to move the file, the virtual file machines. I hope I turned it off. So this is gonna, and then what I'll do is I will open up the configuration file again. I'll close this and we'll just reopen it again once it's done. We'll just wait for this to finish. This will take about 18 minutes. So I'm just going to come right back. About 40 GB. So as you can see, these files are big. So just make sure that you have ample enough space. I did a lot of work on here, right? So you're looking at 40. Um, you can also um, share it with different people, right? And then create a network access for that. Right, okay. And there you have it. Remember if this works. Yeah, there we go. So I'm able to share that. I can share it this way, but it doesn't matter as well. Like I said, if they can communicate with each other, then you can share it this way as well. You just got to make sure that the two computers can communicate with each other, right? And then you can have that person save that. Um, anyway, it doesn't matter what you do it. Your options are are endless. So make sure you power off that PC, log off, power up that PC. Right. Um, like I said, this won't allow us to go in, but make sure you power off that PC. And here, what did I have in here? Um, what did I have in here? I have 5 machines, and right now I'm in maintenance mode. So let's log back in. Okay. Um, what was this? What machine was this? Volume. This is SCVM5. So this was an old machine. Was it invalid? It's unregistered. Um, see, I won't be able to power these on, so might as well just unregister them. I'll do them all at once. All right, let's just learn that's a clone that I had. It's no longer in use, so I cannot register these machines. And I will have to research that. But again, this is all based out of where these machines are, right? I would have to log into or I'd have to putty into this machine and, and take a look at the volumes, do some research and on the volumes, which is not something we're gonna do. That's more a little bit advanced. That's something we can do in a full course if you're interested. Um, but we can definitely get this resolved. Um, okay, so that's doesn't work. That's okay. So as we wait, got 3 more minutes before we move over. And what I'll do is I will shut this off, turn this off completely, and I will open. the new VMX configuration file. Once this is complete. And like I said, it may not have it, so you know, I might want to delete this machine after I'm done moving it over. I don't have much left. Yeah, see, I have 23.7. See, I did free up a little bit, but again, that's why I had that error. So I'm gonna go ahead and wait for this to finish. And then once I finish, I'm going to log back in. Mm. Here's another machine that I had about 5 years ago. You know, there's a lot of machines out there, but like I said, you know, I have had so many machines in here. I lost count of a lot of them. And instead of building everything from scratch, I've taught you guys how to um, extend your licenses, right? I have licenses already that I can give these, but um, I'm not going to show it on here. These are licenses that were provided while I was teaching. Um, gives us some 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 will give us about a year worth of licensing, right? So um, unfortunately, I can't share that, but again, there are different licenses that you can purchase for ESXi. Let's see what the licenses are. License costs. License cost for ESXi. Hypervisor. Right? So you're looking at 500 per processor, right? The more the merrier, right? So these are the costs for that associated. They do get expensive. I have the enterprise version, which is something that, you know, or you can just go based on a CPU core for vSphere. And this one, when you get into vSphere, it gets expensive. So just be careful, right? Um, just make sure that you understand what you're buying and how to calculate all this stuff, right? There's a lot of calculators out there, pricing calculators. There's, so for example, this one here gives you an overview of how um, licensing costs and um, how it works and what the prices are per CPU per year, the essential kits, what you're paying for that kit, um, warranty, customer support, right? So it costs, it gets expensive, right? But remember, we're in and you're going to pay tons of money for it. Um, so again, yeah, it is expensive, but you know, for people that want to rate the habits of using it and train and get your own in productive environment and your own test environment for training purposes, this is the route to go, right? There's evaluation copies. You can extend your evaluation copy an extra 2 months, not a problem. I showed you guys how to do that. I think this is done. So did I move it? So let's go back to here, here, and there's the file, right? So I should be able to open it now. Um, shouldn't be any problems. So what I'll do is I will uh, open this with VMware Workstation Pro. So I'll go back to my servers. I will go to File. I will go to Open, and I will locate my virtual machine. And then I'll open my virtual machine, and I will open up my ESXi1, and that will automatically open here in the corner here. So I'll just drag it over. That'll give my new configuration file. So I should be able to power it on now, no problem. And moved it. I'm gonna choose that. So this will work. My VM Visor installer. I have 7. Again, you can download this online through your Broadcom accounts. So I'm just powering this on. Once this is fully powered on, um, you can see this one has 12 GB, 50. So I want to see if this will work now. Hopefully I have space now where I'm able to increase that VMX file. So as soon as this is done, we'll go ahead and finish that installation of Windows Server. This one too, I think I'm going to move this one too. So I'm going to move this server too. I'll just leave it for now. I'm not installing anything. But if this gives me a problem, we'll go back. We'll go to our ESXi2 server node, and we'll go ahead and do the same thing we just did. Move over our VMX files. Remember, we have our storage data stores, right? That's where it's stored, right? But the physical files are virtual machine profiles. Those are obviously, like I said, those are installed. We can open this up here. This one here has memory host requirements. Memory required on the host is 2, 4G above is recommended. LAN requirements, we're using NAT, which is what we're going to be doing, which is what we did, right? We've already installed it. This here it is, right? So again, you should be able to try all this, right? Um, you know, follow these instructions, right? Um, you can type the VMware command terminal if you have terminal. If you have an OVF file, which is your open virtualization format virtual machine, like from a non-third party, sometimes you can go ahead and import those inside our VMware workstation, right? So we can open on an OVF file if we want to, right? So I showed you guys how to create clones in other videos. Follow that for that instruction. I also managing folders. We talked about that. Adding a virtual machine folder. So this will have all the information here in case. And then the documentation that I wrote for you guys. You guys should have that. removing a virtual machine. I showed you guys how to use that, which is going to be fun, 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 right? Let's see, that's that's perfectly fine, right? So that I'll have my share, right? If I need it, in case, and I can download and share this with specific people if I want to within my organization. Um, Calculator we're not going to need anymore. What else? What else? What else? What else? GPUs. We're not going to talk about GPUs. Uh, do, 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 do. Um, so this will give us our shell access. So again, we'd have to put it in maintenance mode and whatnot to do that. That's going to take up a lot of time. So I've now resolved that one problem, that issue. It's now powered on. The right IP is on. The right host name is on. Um, so we will open up our web browser and I will refresh. Right, and there we go. I should be able to log in. Right, so once I logged in, refresh this. Let's go back to our machine. Okay. So I have two CPU, 8 GB of memory, storage, one disk. Okay. Uh, network, we're gonna be installing 2012. That's what I wanted. And I'm gonna power it back on. I'm gonna make this bigger. And I'm gonna do a control delete again. So, oops. I have to find the key actions. Go to send keys. Oh, guest OS, send keys. Guest OS, send keys. And I'll do control delete. Press a key. Oh. I'll have to go to the settings. I want to make sure that my CD DVD is powered on. For the data store, no, see, there's nothing there. Powered on, and I should be connected. And then I'll have my ISOs. I'll have my 2012, and I'll select that, and I'll save that. And it says that your system was not found. So what I'll do is I will send the keys again. We'll go to power. I'll reset the machine this time, and I'll do it again from start. So it's too small. We'll go to actions, power, reset. So this will reset the whole machine. Yeah. Test, same piece, control delete. Um, should be F10. Yes. Enter. Okay, what happened? Um, okay, so what I wanted to do is boot from hard disk, as you could see, it's just giving me a little bit of a tough time. So what I'll do is I'll do a control delete. I'll go to the boot menu. Oh man, it's too fast. Reset. Yes. And I'm going to boot from hard drive. So I'm going to select 2 and enter the setup there. And then should work. An operating system was not found. Why is it not found? Okay, so let's go ahead and see what's going on here. Disk. So it's going to be a VDMK file. Okay, so what I'll do is I will power this off. And I will create. Okay, so I'll have to delete this disk. Okay, okay. Yes, delete files. Yes, yes, and it's MPUS. Okay, I'm gonna delete that. Okay, so I'm gonna close this, and I'm gonna go to edit. So I deleted the disk, and I'm gonna add a hard disk, and I'm gonna add a new standard hard disk, and I'm gonna give it. I think it's because it's 40 GB, right? I'm gonna give it 100, give it 250. That's perfect, more than enough. And you can't go over. Oh yeah, I'm using thick provision. So I'm gonna do thin provision. It is available in the data store, so that means I don't have any disk space. So this won't work. There's the problem. So I have to expand the disk space here. So let's go to ESXi 2. Let's see if I can do this with the 20 GB that I have. So again, it does become difficult, right? Just have, a little bit of patience and planning, design first, which makes sense. I do a little bit of research. I recommend, but in these instances, I've done these so many times. I'm playing with what I had before just to speed things up. I'm not going to give you the full aspect. I'm just going to show you what would you do in this instance, right? What would you do? Um, so sometimes again, like the how long are you going to use this? Again, this is as long as you want, right? You're going to use this for 2 months, which is about 60 days, and extended an extra 60 days, so you got 120 days. So you have 4 months to play around with it, right? So enjoy that part of it. Um, so when we have our databases, right, we'll have to ensure that it's able to read and write from here. So we'll need to ensure that um, when we want to write information, the reads will occur from the main system, right? So um, we can't add more databases, and we'll have to make sure that that's load balanced as well too. So we can add a load balancer to any application servers, so or to any servers that we have here that we're going to be installing. So just ensure that our databases and our stuff like that is ready to handle the reads and writes, right? This is powered on. I'm gonna go to my uh, and refresh that page, and then I'm gonna log in. Again. Okay, so let's see how much I have here. In my data store, I have 50 GB left. So I'm gonna delete some of the space in my storage because I need to create some space, right? So I'm gonna save. I'm gonna delete this as I don't need it. And this is just a machine with no operating system on it to prove. And this is more for testing, right? So we can test these specific machines in specific way, right? So what happened here? Is this in maintenance mode? What happened? Unregister, right? And then I'm also gonna unregister this machine. Um, yep. And not anymore. No, I'm gonna go to my storage here, data browser storage, and I'm going to delete. Okay, close. Um, so devices. Nope. Oh, sorry. I would have the data browser store. Okay, there we go. I think it just took a little bit of time for it to delete. So you're gonna unregister the machines, and that'll automatically delete those for you. So I think I have enough space. If I refresh, I think I have more. Um, should have a little bit more. So let's see what's going on here. So let's go back to this machine here. What do I have here? I have 250 and 40, right? And I am going to see if I can putty into this. I want to show you something that I think that you guys might want to understand here. Um, so within my storage, my data store, I have my application software here. I don't think um okay, let's just install 2016. That's fine. All right, so I'm gonna power this on. Close this window. Just gonna make a decision. Did I put a 12? I think not 2016. Okay. So, and I named it 2012. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna power on this machine. And what happened? An operating system was not found. Try disconnecting images that do not contain an operating system. So, what to do? What to do? All right. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unregister this PC, and I'm going to do this again. So, I'm going to unregister this PC. Power it off. So let's just power it off. Will it? If so, what I can do is I can um, try to not auto start it, but reset it. So or power it on. Let's just power it on. So what happens if I power it on without touching anything? Nothing. That happens. Okay, so let's go to power. Let's reset. So if I reset this machine, what happens? Okay, let's try F2. If I power off and reset, just to kind of give you guys the options, right? So you guys get to see all this stuff, right? And I power off and I reset. Yes. The task is already in progress. Power off. Ah, okay, there's another one. That's right. Okay, so suspended VM. I suspended the VM. Why would I do that? There's my result. It's running at 87%. Okay, so if I right click here on register, that's fine. I'll just delete it. I'll create another one. Okay, so let's just create another one from scratch. We're going to create a new VM. That's fine. So note that uh, it's been a while. The machines were just machines at one point. In they were located within our um, were in our volume. So even when we would log in, and again, if we were to put in a concurrent session, we would share the session if possible, and then hit OK, and then go back to logging, and then put in our session, and then put in our ESXi 2, hit enter, and then log in. Into. But again, this would have to be a maintenance mode. I would have to enable shell. So let's see if we can put this machine or host in. I go to the host and I go to actions. I go to services. I'm going to enable the secure shell, and then I'm going to enable console shell, which is what I want. Or if it gives me that option, gives me that option. It's not giving me the option yet because I don't have any machine to test it on. But if I go here and I open up my shell command like I did, right, and double click on putty, go to my SSH, share the connection if possible, log session, I'll type in my name again, then I hit open, accept once, I'll log in, and just to test it, ef/h, it would be space h, and this will give us a file system. So here's our file system data store, right? Our VMFS, right? Our data store. So to change the location, I would, cd vmfs / volumes / data store, right? And I would click enter. Oh, data store 1, right? And then I would list everything that's in here. So list -l. So this will list all my directories within here. I can do it this way, right? Where I'm not physically going in, but again, this is one way to do it. Um, you know, and then um to view what's in here, let's see if I can open the how to open it. Give me one sec. So open putty command. I can't remember the command if it's cat or VMF, which is what we did here. One of the commands. No, not that. We'll open it. Um, okay, so if I'm using putty, um, oh man, I almost forgot there, guys. It's been a while. So, to in putty, uh, what is the command to open a folder directory in data store? VMFS v volume. And this will give me the VI. Can use the VI editor. Like, see that is it. It's the cat command. Okay, this will list the contents within here and see if there's anything that's necessary for me to use. We'll try the cat, which is what I thought it was gonna be. Or touch. One of the. I'm not gonna. Yeah, that's the cat. That's the one. This will display the contents. That's what I want. All right, so let's go ahead and open. It's exactly what I wanted. All right, so I'm gonna go cat, right, and then I'm gonna type in MEM -PS -US. See what happens. Um, So let's do this. Slash. Right, and I'm going to do cat. This one here, cat. Will it open it? No, it doesn't open it. So that means that there's no contents in it. So let's try open up the application software folder and see what happens. Application, tab. No. Oh no, we'll have to be in that specific folder. So CD, there you go. And then I would list, right? And then I would at app tab, right? And then I would click on enter. Okay, so it doesn't read it. Okay, that's fine. So I'll have to look into that, but again, note that I have available and use. This will give me some sizes that I need, which is what I'm looking for. This will give me all my data store files for VMFS. Perfect. I've listed the files in here. And I have my read and write. So read error could be a read error. So let's see if we can resolve the read error. Cat read error is a directory. Let's see what happens. What does that mean? Error. Um, should look at directors if there are some common scenarios and solutions. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Okay, so just showing you some visibility, some easy commands, very easy. You don't have to go crazy. Um, showed you how to use this, showed you how to log in. We're just going to create that machine in and out service. And I want to thank you guys again for giving me the opportunity. This is site 2. So I'm just going to go ahead and disable that because I don't need that no more. And I'll disable the console shell. I don't need that no more. So I'm just going to create a new machine again quickly. Right, and we're going to call this the same thing. Guest is Windows, version is 2016, not 2012. Just make sure, and then I'm gonna enable virtualization. It's gonna go in my data store, right? So that's the data store. You'll have a list usually of 4 or 5 different data stores, but again, that's where I want it to be. This space is greater than what I want it, so what I'll do is I'll give 50 for now. Give this 8, right? Location is fine. This is going to be thin provisioned, where I'm going to split them into separate files, and the network adapter is connected, and I'm going to go through the data store here. About that, select, and right, so 250, 300. I give 500 is typically okay for this instance. Should have given more. Like I have so much space. I should have just given more. I just like I said, I showing you an example of what I had for a specific, and I just fixed it for you guys. And instead of going through that whole process and wasting time, I could have just created a new one, but it's fine. You guys can see where the problems are, and you guys can fix the same problems and become that expert, right? With by example. I want you guys to go out there and do this yourselves, right? So hopefully you guys are able to go ahead and create that experience for yourselves. Well, that should work now. So I created the machine. Once I've created the machine, I'm gonna end this video and thank you guys for joining and hope to see you in another session. Just remember, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to message me at any time, anytime, anytime. So any errors, take pictures of it, send it to me, give me an example, give me some visibility. Any errors happen, and let's make this full screen for you guys to see that. We'll leave this in the States, right? For time and currency. If you're in a different time and currency format, make sure you change that. Your keyboard, make sure you change that. Any issues or comments or problems occur, please take a picture, snapshot, print your screen, do what you got to do, send that over to me with an explanation of what you did, what video you watched, and I'll see what I can do and give you that. Happy practicing and happy learning. I hope this session was informative, and I'm just going to let this run for the next couple of minutes or so, and I will talk to you guys later. Cheers.